Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patti LuPone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Theater Podcast, intimate personal conversations with the industry's biggest names. Our guest today is Marla Mindelle, who of course is playing the amazing Celine Dion in Titanique off-Broadway. Marla is one of my absolutely oldest friends in New York City. Not that she's old, that's not what I meant. She's somebody I've known the longest since moving to New York City a long, long time ago. We see each other in spurts, but when we do, we reconnect like no time has passed. You ever have one of those friends that just no matter how long you go in between seeing each other, you always just have everything to catch up on and can talk like nothing ever, like you were never apart. That's how we are. It's awesome. She's an amazingly genuine person who just says what's on her mind and has this uncanny ability to just write it down effortlessly. It's a talent that I really envy. And of course, we talk about Titanique, this smash hit off Broadway. It's been in the recording. We say that it was extended 3 times, and between actually doing the interview and me recording this intro right now, it was extended again. So it's got a 4th extension that was just announced. Now they're playing through September 10th. So it's going to be there for a while. Go down and check it out in Union Square because my God, it's so funny. Find me online on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the places. Leave a rating and a review. And everybody now, please enjoy this episode with Marla Mindelle. Today's guest is someone I've had the pleasure of knowing for, I'm pretty sure, the entire time I've lived in New York City, which is now, wow, over 15 years. She made her Broadway debut in South Pacific, originated the role of Sister Mary Robert, the nun who hasn't completed her vows yet, in Sister Act, originated the role of the evil stepsister Gabrielle in the 2013 revival of Cinderella, and was Kitty in the first national tour of The Drowsy Chaperone, in addition to being the evil boss Olivia on the Emmy-nominated series Special on Netflix. She is also a writer, a composer with multiple writing projects sold and in the works. She can currently be seen on stage right now playing the true-to-life Celine Dion in Titanique at the Darryl Roth Theater. Marla Mindelle, welcome to the Theater Podcast.
Oh, wow. You know my whole resume. I'm obsessed.
That's it. That's everything.
That's everything I've ever done.
Everything you've ever done in your entire life. And this, we were just talking before I started recording, like I've known you, you're literally, I think now my longest, I was going to say, my longest friend in New York. I was going to say living friend in New York, but that sounds like everybody else is dead.
It's dead. But I am dead inside. I'm dead inside.
I mean, you're like my remaining friend because like circles change and grow and things move around and like people obviously meet and lose touch. But like, yeah, we've known each other and still been in touch for the entire time I've been in New York, which is kind of insane. So.
I know, it's so crazy. And even when I went to Los Angeles for 8 years, we still kept in touch. And now it's just full circle to be back and doing your Broadway podcast.
I can't believe you went to LA. Yeah, you went to LA for 8 years, but I mean, we'll get to that. Yeah. So, little Marla, like you grew up in Pennsylvania, right?
I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, home of the Bucks County Playhouse.
Right.
Yeah, so I lived only about 90 minutes away from the city. My father is a musical theater composer. And so I was growing up listening to every obscure musical theater record you could ever imagine. And I started seeing shows in the city as early as 3 years old. Like Big River was my first Broadway show. And I was dead silent, which is a twist because I was a raging bitch baby. And so I knew from a very, very young age, I was like, musical theater is it. It's all I ever want to do. And so I went to college for musical theater and then started my career, thankfully, very, very soon after graduating college.
And you're the oldest of 3 other two lovely sisters.
Yes, correct.
And you annoy the hell out of them in a very pleasant and happy way. And I love how different you all are.
Yeah, they do treat me like I'm the youngest and an idiot, which is wild because I'm significantly older than both of them. Lisa and I went to college for musical theater together, and then she quickly realized that musical theater is wonderful if you want to be broke your entire life. And she was like, F this, I'm going to be a financial advisor. So now she's making more money than any of us working at an independent financial firm in Los Angeles. And Olivia is the black sheep of the family. She wants absolutely nothing to do with musical theater. I don't blame her. And she works in magazines.
Olivia gives like zero fucks about.
Oh, I know.
Much
I love
everything.
it.
She's the absolute best.
The twist is she's the best singer out of all of us, but she refuses to sing out loud. So we'll hear her in the shower. We call it, I hope I can say this on air, but whatever. We call it pussy riffing because it just sounds like it's like little tiny pussy riffs because she's always like, yeah, wow, like Mariah Carey breathy riffs in the shower, but she's fierce.
I did not know she could sing.
Oh, she's the best.
I did not know I mean, I knew she was an amazing photographer, but because I've seen her work there, but I've never heard her sing. That's incredible because she's just like, whatever, I'm gonna do what I want. Like it's that damn generation, man. Get off my lawn. Get off my lawn. Okay, so I knew you. I think we met when you were doing South Pacific. Yeah, that would be 2007-ish, right?
Yeah, maybe even. Yes. Yeah. 2006, 2007 is when our friendship truly blossomed. Yes.
And yeah, we met for a weird party out on Roosevelt Island, which was incredible. And rip Roosevelt Island. And I forgot that you had gone on tour with Drowsy Chaperone too. So that was after South Pacific, right?
That was before South Pacific. Drowsy Chaperone. Yeah. So I came here at like 23 years old and at 24, I had booked Drowsy Chaperone. So I did that for a year. And then I came back and I reconnected with all of you. And I worked at Ellen's Stardust Diner in the meantime, which we called Ellen's STD because I'm sure working there, you probably caught something. and then 6 months later, I booked South Pacific. Yeah. And did that for like a year and a half.
And I mean, you kind of grew up your whole life. You're saying you grew up your whole life. This is what you want to do, musical theater. And then you get in there and you talked about going to LA, and you and I have had many a late night conversation about like, God, this is the worst business. This is just so, it's struggle. It's horrible. I'm going to move to LA and be a writer.
I mean, yes, that's exactly true. Look, for me, everyone has their own journey, but I think when you do, I was very, very blessed to be in 3 unbelievably long-running Broadway shows, which never, ever happens. And I was on tour for a year. So literally, for nearly 10 years, I worked consistently on Broadway. And there are unbelievably wonderful things about it. You have a built-in community. You have a steady paycheck. You have you have so many fun things that you can do within, like the Broadway Softball League, Broadway Bowling. Like there's just so many. Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. None of which I did, but you can do it.
I love it. Like all the amazing things you get when you're on Broadway, bowling and softball. Those are at the top of your list. There's a lot of communal things that you can do with a built-in family, and that's incredible. And it's such a wonderful experience. However, on the flip side, there are things like where you don't have any weekends, you don't have any holidays, you barely have a day off. And so after a decade of that, but also trying to be a writer in New York, I was like, I have to put this on the back burner. I've done it. I know exactly what it's like. And I want to do my next chapter, which is trying to become a television and film writer in Los Angeles. So I up and left after Cinderella and I moved to Los Angeles and I was like, I'll be here. I was like, this is going to be so easy. I made it in New York. I'm going to make it in LA in like a year. And God had very different plans for me because I was starting all over again. And no one knew or cared, frankly, about my Broadway resume because I was now trying to be a TV writer. So I was starting from the bottom rung. And 1 year in Los Angeles turned into 7 or 8 years trying to make it in LA. Well, so you went out there with Jonathan Parks Ramage, your
my writing partner. Yes.
And the two of you guys have written so much together. And eventually, you did sell. What did you sell to Margot Robbie's production company?
We sold a movie script called The Big Gay Jamboree, and she was slated to attach. And you know, writing is I actually think that it's harder to be a writer than it is to be an actor, because the writer, you are gesticulating a baby for years on end, and it goes through developmental processes. It goes through multiple different studios, multiple rounds of notes. People move, executives move all the time, and like things are dropped like hot potatoes. So we were in development with that movie for over 2 years before basically it fell through at Paramount. But Jonathan and I are now redeveloping it for the stage, which I think will be very fun and fantastic. And so I'm not letting this baby die yet. But yeah, we sold that, and we sold a couple of other television pilots. But I pitched, I want to say 500 different TV shows and movies. I mean, I was working nonstop for free to try to get anything off the ground. And in the meantime, I was working dinner theater at this dinner theater venue in Los Angeles, doing these like very ratchet movie to musical parodies, because it was the only job that I could really get. And the only job that I could do, ironically, was musical theater, even though I moved to be a writer. And that is where the idea of Titanique was born, at this ratchet dinner theater in Los Angeles.
Really? I thought.
Yeah.
So was it a COVID? I thought it was a COVID baby.
No, it was not a COVID baby at all. No, we were doing all these movie musical parodies like Scream, Devil Wears Prada, Troop Beverly Hills. And then one night at the bar of Rockwell, Constantine Rassouli, who plays Jack Dawson in Titanique now, he came up to me and he's like, okay, the next musical that we should do is Titanic, all Celine Dion songs. You're going to be Celine. I'll be Jack. And at the time I was like, cool, tight. This will never, ever happen or see the light of day. And we sat on the idea for 2 years. And then in 2016, Ty Blue, who was the director of these dinner theater shows, he texted us and he was like, I keep thinking about the Celine Dion idea. I think we should write it. And at the time I was like, oh my God, I'm a struggling writer. I know exactly how this goes. This is going to be so much free work. I don't want to do this. I don't want to play Celine Dion. I was just like, I literally was the Grinch, re Titanic. But we started writing it for fun. And it is so ironic to me that after years and years of failure in Los Angeles as a writer, the one thing I got up and running was a musical, and came back to New York to perform in a musical, which I swore off.
And it's been extended 3 times now, right? Like
third time's a charm.
Yeah, you were in the Asylum, which was in Chelsea, and then moved to the Daryl Roth, and which is a slightly bigger house, and you keep going and going and going, and every time I love the show. I'm going to get to the show, but something you mentioned Connie as well, because Connie was Bach on Broadway here in Wicked, right? And he's got his own Broadway credit. So when did he move out? Did he go out with you, or did you all just kind of meet up there coincidentally?
We met up there. I knew Connie like through various show circles. We were like acquaintances, but I would not consider him to be like a good friend. In fact, he thought I was a raging bitch when we met in New York. And I just thought he was just like a shallow gay person who just like, I don't know, just went to David Barton's gym all the time. Well, but like, I liked him, but like, I didn't know him. So when I moved, he moved maybe a couple years before me, and he had done, I don't think he was Bach in Wicked. I think he was Fiyero in Wicked.
Oh, Fiyero, right.
Yeah, he was Link Larkin in Hairspray. He was in Ghost. I mean, he didn't even go to college. That's how talented he was. He just went straight into Hairspray at 17 and had worked consistently for a decade as well. So it was the same thing with him. He was like, I'm going to make it as a television star. And so he was out in Los Angeles. I was out in Los Angeles. And Ty Blue was out in Los Angeles. Unbeknownst to us, we all wind up at this dinner theater together where we're doing these shows. And that's how Titanic was born. And I guess this was a COVID baby in the sense that we were slated. Titanique was slated to come off Broadway in 2020, but the pandemic happened. So I was like, well, theater is ruined forever. This is never going to happen. I knew it. I've wasted all this time on this project. And I was like, and even if Titanique does come to off Broadway, the world has been through such a reckoning. Like, people aren't even going to like this because it's like literally just a parody. It's silly. Like, people aren't going to think that this is fun or funny. No one's going to want to come to see theater. And it has been the exact opposite. It's been like divine intervention that it happened when it happened, because I think people are looking for joy more than ever. So I think that's been part of the success. Yeah,
I was going to say, I think that coming out of it, what really seemed to succeed was things that just made people straight up laugh and disconnect from the reality. Put them back in a room together, get them to laugh and find a common knowledge again. Because we just, God, I mean.
I know. We're coming up on the 3rd year of the pandemic. It's crazy.
We're going to take a short break. Stay tuned for more of the episode.
And the show, when did the show open? The show opened
in May of 2022. And
yeah,
it was only,
it's been
a while. It's been a while. It was only supposed to run 3 months. And it got extended at the Asylum through November. And then the Daryl Roth opened up. And so I moved and we moved. And every single time I must be the world's biggest pessimist because I'm like, okay, we're moving to a bigger space. How are we going to maintain the popularity? Are people going to want to come see it at a different venue? And it has exceeded my expectations beyond my wildest dreams. I cannot believe we're still running. We're sold out every single night. And it's like a gay football game every single day. People are screaming as if they're at a rock, like a Celine Dion rock concert. It's been the most wild experience of my life. And it has been so joyous for me, even more so as a performer, but as a writer, after struggling for so long, trying to get anything off the ground. I am so, so happy that finally this is the greatest representation of everything I can do, both as a writer and a performer.
Well, it reminds me so much of, I mean, it's your humor. I can see your humor shining through because it was 10 years, over a decade ago, you and I would get together and make these ridiculous videos that were so much fun to shoot before everyone had iPhones that could do it all, right? You know, we get the cameras and get the crew together and we would make these ridiculous sketch comedy videos and one of my favorite, what is it? The Little Mermaid singing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Anyway,
oh my God.
I'll put some links to some of our old videos in the show notes for this because they're bringing up. But I can see the humor coming through, and that's, I think, I guess, is that a product of your parents, the type of humor you have, or it's the cynicism? Where does that come from? Because like Lisa, the middle sister, she's just like kind of the happy-go-lucky, whereas Olivia's like the epitome of like, just like you said, she gives zero fucks
of snark. I don't know. I remember growing up, my family was always very funny, and we always tried to make each other laugh, and we were highly creative. But my father and mother are both very optimistic, not very snarky people. So I don't know where our sisters got the snark, to be honest with you. But I think my snark really came out in Los Angeles. And I think the humor, yes, the humor is purely me. And the humor is also very much Connie and Ty. And I think what has made the show very successful is that we did it with no producers breathing down our neck of like, oh, we have to make this PG. Oh, we got to tame this. We're just like, fuck it. What is funny to us? Let's make each other laugh. The whole goal in mind was to try to break each other and make each other crack up on stage. And so that's why I think the show is like so outrageous and so wild, because we just kept like one up each other on stage all the time. Yeah.
Did you workshop it? And when you were writing it, were you on your feet doing the lines, like workshopping in front of an audience or whatever? Because I've talked with so many people who are successful comedians, and they are so serious about the science of comedy, right? And you talk to people who are really known for this, like Rob McClure or whatever, and you've got like the timing of finding all of your beats to get a laugh on here, and then like if you wait a half a second over here, you're going to get an additional laugh. Like all of this, is that... How did you workshop all of this going from the different venues? Because a dinner theater is different from the Asylum, is different from the Daryl Roth, and every time you have to like find your feet again, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. It's been a very, very long process. We started the process out in Los Angeles. So we wrote the script, and we all had different jobs, different lives. So like Ty took the first third, Connie took the second, I took the end, and then I went over and glossed over everything. So that's how we originally did it. Then we did like a couple table reads with friends. Then we would get together in Connie lived in a luxury building in Los Angeles, and he had a movie theater in the building. We would rent out the movie theater, and every Monday night we would go and we would learn music together, and we would just kind of like bounce things off each other. Then we did a couple readings in Los Angeles, which then I was, after doing some readings, we would sell out these readings. People were cackling. They were like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And I was like, really? Like, we've not really spent this much time on it. There's no money. We're doing everything for free. I'm getting my costume off of Rent the Runway. Like, Connie's making the props in his home. Then I was like,
it still looks like he's making the props.
Yeah, I know. We kept that. We kept that part of it. Then I was like, you know what? Maybe this is actually funny. So I asked everyone to fly themselves on their own dime, put themselves up in New York, and we rented out a week at the Green Room 42, where we did a week's worth of performances. And that's the first time ironically, that we really got to workshop everything, build on beats. And then we did another run at the Green Room 42. We went back to Los Angeles. So it was like a 4-year process of just doing these readings and workshops and fine tuning. And then the first time we ever got a real rehearsal process, ironically, was when we went to the Asylum. We had 3 weeks in a space altogether. We had never, ever had that before.
Really?
And really, because we were all doing this for free in Los Angeles. It was all just friends trying to make each other laugh. People were flying away, going to do jobs. So we never, ever spent more than like 4 hours on the show together. So it's truly crazy to me that it has wound up being so funny and successful because there was never any time. And then moving to the Daryl Roth, we didn't have any time either. And that was a completely new restaging. They were like, oh, we've done it at the Asylum. We'll give you 3 days of tech. And it was crazy because we had to completely redo it. So there has not been, quite frankly, a ton of time putting the show up. But I think that speaks to the testament of how solid the script was in the development and workshop process. We got it to such a good place that when we did take it to all these different venues, the staging didn't really honestly matter because the book is so funny.
That's really interesting. That I mean, you grew up with musical theater. Your family is music, and then you go to school for musical theater, but then you end up wanting to write. And it like when you're, I guess, looking for I guess what I'm saying, where did the talent for writing come from? Did you have to craft that specifically, or like when you went into LA, did you start doing classes, or do you like look at the scripts behind movies that you like? Was there a teaching moment there where you had to start like uncovering, put the musical theater in a little box for a while and start crafting the writing bit?
Yeah, I started writing. We would have these classes in college where we'd have to write like little scenes. And so I'd start, and I went to college with this guy named Jonathan Parks Ramage, who's now a best-selling author. And at the time we were writing scenes for fun, and we were like, this is kind of funny. Like maybe we should like try our hand at this. And so when we started writing together, we would read a lot of scripts. Like we would read a lot of scripts that were out like on CBS. We would read multicams and single cams. And we started writing so much together and developing a shorthand that I think that it is absolutely a different skill. But because we were doing so much of it in New York, and then we both moved together to Los Angeles at the same time, we were both writing so many scripts, pitching so many ideas. We were writing packets for late night to see if we could get staffed on late night. We would have to write samples all the time. We were writing these scripts. So it became a real skill. And I think it really, really helped me when crafting Titanique, because, Ty and Connie wrote incredibly funny things. But I think where I came in was I was able to very soundly and structurally write, okay, we need to introduce all the characters here. What would Celine Dion say here? And so I think that that's where I could bring my skill set as a writer is fine tuning and making the script really, really tight.
I think that's a natural ability. I mean, ultimately, school, well, I'm going to say, I think it's sort of nature versus nurture, right? Because you've got to have it in there. You got to have the drive. You got to have the passion to put yourself up and decide essentially after you make it, you're on Broadway, you've got multiple credits, and then you're going to start over essentially. Like you said, you went to LA and you're starting over and doing this all again. And ironically, you're back doing what you set to walk away from in the first place.
I know. It's so full circle. I know.
But I guess in terms, I didn't know Jonathan was a best-selling author now either. What book is it?
Oh, he published a book called Yes, Daddy, and it's fabulous. It's so great. It's so funny because him and I were writing together for, I want to say 15 years. And the only things that him and I have ever gotten up were independent of each other. He sold a book. I think in 2020 or 2021, he sold Yes, Daddy. And then I got Titanique up and running. But yeah, I think the thing about musical theater is that while it is the most incredible thing in the world, you are always a cog in somebody else's wheel. Like you're always like a machine part in a way, like any job, everyone has their roles. And I was so, I remember watching like all these creative teams that would put the show up and then they would go off on their own and they would like go on vacation. And I was like, I want to have some of that. I want to do that. I don't want to be stuck here, for a year and a half doing it. And I was like, well, maybe you get a little bit more of that independence and autonomy if you are on a creative team and if you start to write. So ultimately, that was what I was really striving for. But at the same time, I loved performing. I love performing, and I'm desperate to do that as well. So now I just call myself the poor man's Lin-Manuel Miranda because I get to write and star in my own thing. I'm just not making nearly as much money as him.
One day.
One day.
You'll get like Warner Brothers animation, not Disney. But
not Disney. Yeah.
What was the that CCM video that is still like a cult viral hit of you doing Colors of the Wind purposely off key?
Yeah. Yes. That is when that's really going to date me. That's before YouTube. That's before TikTok. It went viral right when like the internet came out. So like viral back then was like people emailing each other being like, hey, you should listen to this.
Yeah. And it's so funny how the internet, like, don't believe anything you read on the internet, because I remember I sent it to you because somebody forwarded it to me. Remember when email forwards were a thing? It was forward this to 10 of your closest friends.
Yes.
And it was, listen to this audio file of an actual Caribbean cruise line audition. And it was the audio from your video.
Stop it.
So, do you not remember this? I sent this to you because it was sent to me by Evan Rachel Wood's father. Who...
Wait, no, I did not know this at all. Wait, what?
So yes, I performed with Ira David Wood. So in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I'm from, right? So I've done some things with David Wood, and he maintains this email list of stuff, and he's like, check this out. This is a real audition from a cruise line, from Carnival Cruise Lines or whatever it was. And I was like, I'd play it, and I'm like, okay, what is this? I'm like, I'm like, holy shit, that's Marla. That's Marla's video. And I wrote it back. I'm like, this is David. Come on, man.
No, I know. I remember when I was working at Ellen Stardust Diner, they were like, have you heard this one like middle-aged woman sing Colors of the Wind? And I was like, hi, I'm Marla, and I'm certainly not middle-aged. They were like, wait, you did that? So then they're like, can you sing it for the customers? So there would be days where I would sing Colors of the Wind in that voice at Ellen Stardust Diner to a boatload of tourists who were probably like, who the hell is this 23-year-old woman with this terrible voice? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll find that because I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. We'll add it to the show notes or put it on Instagram. God, that's so freaking funny. Did you ever get to write or contribute creatively to Special on Netflix?
No, I did not. That was all Ryan's baby. But he always gave me liberty to improv anything I wanted. And to be honest with you, I never really improv'd all that much because his writing is so funny. Yeah. And the writing for my character, Olivia especially, was the funniest. So I did not. That was really his baby, and he had like a mini writer's room. And I was very happy to come in and just say his lines because they were so friggin' funny. And it was just so great getting to play like a well-dressed bitch. It was like Devil Wears Prada, but again, less money.
And then you've also tried The Devil's Bitch. You had your own feature film that you
correct,
your own
musical feature film.
Musical feature film that's out there as well. That I am just in awe of how much you have tried to create and successfully created as well. Like, it just goes to show you that there's so much that happens behind the scenes to get someone to where they are in terms of being on stage, or even the creation, or like the amount of creative team members that go into putting something up, right? And or happenstance circumstances. Like Titanique, would it have been as popular as it is had we not have the pandemic? I'm not saying that the pandemic is a good thing, but like we were just talking about, coming out of it, people needed something to hold on to laugh, and to really to focus on. And this was like the perfect thing. And then like Celine Dion knows about it and gave her blessing.
Well, I don't know if she's given her blessing. I think her team has given her blessing. So when we were doing these readings in New York, David Foster's manager, David Foster is a composer who wrote all of her iconic songs. So his manager came and then started bringing lawyers. We had music rights people coming. Then we got David Foster himself to come see it. Then Celine's publicist came. And while we've been at the asylum in Del Roth Celine's backup dancers, her makeup artist, her physician. I mean, everyone within her world has come to see it. And one of her former music agents came to see it. And they have just said, she would love this. She would love this. And I think she would too.
She's got to know about it. She has got to know about it.
I mean, she has to, because everyone tags her all the time. They tag her so much for Titanique musical that I feel bad. Like, I've stopped tagging her because I don't want her to be like, who is this annoying girl who thinks she's me? So yeah, it's been just wild, but everyone has said this is so up her alley. And I'm glad, because truthfully, like, she taught me how to sing. I listened to her growing up constantly. And Connie and Ty are both huge fans. And Nicholas Connell, who's the music orchestrator and arranger and musical director. We are all such huge fans of her that what I hope that this looks like is not only very funny, but as a love letter to her, because she truly is one of the greatest singers of all time. So I'm glad that everyone has come to see the show, and I'm glad that they love it and they think that I remind them of her, because that's the greatest dream for me.
Well, it kind of ties together a bunch of I guess there's a cultural aspect to this too, because what did you call it? It's a big gay Super Bowl or something.
It's a gay football game.
A gay football game, right? And because I think there's a lot of queer culture that is referenced and is integrated and is obviously part of your life, being a queer individual yourself, right?
Yeah.
And Connie and everybody else who identifies along those lines. And it's like the audience is so energetic and so happy, and just you give them, the show gives them the permission to interact with you in a way that you don't normally get sitting at like a Leopoldstadt. Nothing against Leopoldstadt. Right. Night and day. You know what I mean, right?
But I think that comes with working in dinner theater. Like, when we were working in dinner theater, you know, people were eating fries and downing glasses of wine, and we were just in the mix of that. And we would grab, I mean, this is pre-COVID, but you'd grab their drink and you drink their drink and then sing a song. And so we wanted to make sure that kind of intimacy was retained, because that's kind of what makes it so special. And it makes people feel like they're in on the joke with you. And also Celine Dion is very much like that, how she talks to people at her concerts. She brings people up on stage. She's so kind to all of her fans. She looks at you directly in the eyes. So it was very, very important to us that we retain that and that level of intimacy. But what I find so fascinating is that, yes, obviously, in a weird way, Titanic, the movie, has this kind of camp kind of aspect about it. It was very popular in all of our sexual awakenings as straight queer people, because we were all in that era when it came out. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of millennials that come to the show, and obviously there are a lot of queer jokes. But what I find so fascinating in moving to the Daryl Roth is that the fan base has grown, and I see people in their 60s and 70s all the time. And there was like a woman that came up to me yesterday. She was in her 70s. She was like, I've had the worst 2 weeks of my life. This made me laugh so hard and put such a smile on my face. And I get those kinds of messages from older people all the time. And in my head, I'm like, we didn't write this with you in mind. Like, what do you find so funny about this? But I think that's the best part, is that it's not just appealing to queer people. It's actually appealing to everyone. And that makes me feel like we've really struck something and hit, commercial gold.
It's Celine Dion, of course, who has a multi-generational appeal and a multi-sexual identification appeal. And Titanic, which of course is everybody of our generation has to love Titanic or hate it, depending on where you are. But yeah, so Titanic and Celine Dion, and then now integrating the humor that I feel like it's social media humor. It's pop culture humor.
Yes.
And so it's taking all this nostalgic stuff that everybody loves and making it current again. And you just did, you and Connie and Ty, you guys just did a brilliant job. And I've seen the show multiple times, obviously. And every time I never get tired. It is so funny.
You.
I feel like there's always a new joke in there that I've missed the previous times I've seen it.
There is. I mean, we try very, very hard to keep the script very updated and fresh. So if there's like a big cultural moment, we have to talk about it. I have a whole section where I improv something different every single night.
I remember.
And so, I pull from whatever is like current in the headlines. I make Jack and Rose do things all the time. But it's very, very different, and it's based on current events. So I think what keeps people coming back, because people have been seeing the show 3, 4, 6, 7, 14 times. I mean, it's just crazy. You don't see the same show every single night. It is completely different. And that actually goes to me being in musical theater and having to do the same thing over and over and over again. I wanted to make sure that if I was going to do musical theater again, like that, it would change every night, so that you don't feel like a robot or like you're a cog in a wheel. You feel like you're actually organic and fresh and delivering something new to the audience. And so whenever you come back, you don't see the same show twice. Yeah.
We're going to take a short break. Stay tuned for more of the episode.
Is there any feedback that sticks out as being particularly surprising in a good way, of just like, aside from a 60-year-old lady who's like, why do you like this? Do you have anything else that's like, oh yeah, okay?
I mean, the amount of, I think one of the greatest moments thus far is RuPaul came to the show, and
Really?
he is obviously such a big influence. I mean, yeah, the celebrities that have been coming, first of all, every micro gay influencer on Instagram has seen the show, but also like we've had people from Callista Flockhart, aka Ally McBeal. Last week, Matt Bomer came. We had the host of Z100 last night, RuPaul. I mean, it's just been Gus Kenworthy, all of these huge people in different facets and areas of the entertainment industry. But RuPaul was a really big one, because he has obviously influenced our humor. He's influenced a major part of the show, which I will not give away. And it was so funny. No one told me that he was going to be there, because I have deep musical theater anxiety. So if I would faint if I know that, but I was doing my improv scene, and as I walked off, someone was clapping for me. And so as Celine, I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And I looked at him, and he had a hood on, and I was like, oh my fucking God, is that RuPaul? And so I didn't say anything to anyone, because I was like, if that is him, I will die. But at the end of the show, he just, relayed to the team how much he loved it. And you could see him smiling and cackling the entire time. And he started to relax, especially, and towards the second act. And that was a really big moment to see that we could get such huge cultural icons at our little rinky-dink show.
It's not rinky-dink, man. I think
it is. I mean, it feels like that to me, just because I've worked on it for so long.
I know. I feel like you've got imposter syndrome. And I want to touch on the anxiety for a second there, because I know, like, you're always wanting things to be so good, and you're always wanting it, and I know, and knowing you, like, you're always like, it's just not that great, it could be better, and where everybody else on the outside is like, what are you talking about, this is amazing, right? Like,
I know.
do you still feel that? Like,
I feel that every day.
Really?
It is imposter syndrome. Yes, yeah, I feel it. To be very, very frank with you, I deal with, very bad stage fright. And I think that a part of the reason is I feel like there's such a high expectation to live up to the vocals of Celine Dion. And I'm not her. I can't sing like her. And I'm trying my very, very best, but I just want people to think that I'm doing like a good job as her, and everyone's like, but it's you doing her. But I want people to think that like, it's a really good impression. So I get crazy about that. And I get crazy about sounding just like her. So I listen to her recordings a lot, and yeah. So I'm still the mentally ill person that you knew from 15 years ago. is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, never change. Yeah. Never change.
No, you shouldn't. No, and well, it's just great, because I think all this level of success that multiple people have reached and whatnot. I mean, like, I reference this all the time on the podcast, is talking with Patty Murin about having full-on panic attacks in the middle of her solos. Like, inside her head, she's breaking down while still singing whatever, Do You Want to Build a Snowman, right? So really, it's the same, like, on stage?
It's the same.
Yeah. You get in your own head like that?
Oh my God, all the time. I'm having an out-of-body experience. Yeah, I mean, I was very taken when she wrote that article, because there are a lot of us that suffer from that. It's so weird when your body is doing something, but your mind is somewhere else. And for me, if I screw up a note or if I crack, like, I just get so in my head, and I fail to realize I'm human. Sometimes you're not feeling well. You have a headache. If you're a woman, you're on your period, your voice changes because of that. There's all these factors that go into maintaining a show 8 times a week. It is only natural that at one point you're going to feel a little bit wonky. But when we first transferred to the Daryl Roth, I went through a huge period of deep, deep anxiety, because the asylum was so small and grungy and intimate, and it did not feel like a theatrical experience. But when we went to the Darryl Ross, suddenly there's a stage, there's a proscenium. I'm looking out at faces. There's black lights, and yeah, it was very, very challenging. And so I definitely have a roller coaster. I have good performances and I have bad performances when my anxiety is really, really high. But there are a lot of us that experience that. And I think that's kind of only natural. If you're a human being with a brain who's kind of self-critical of yourself, it's only natural that you're going to be like, oh my God, I friggin' suck tonight, you know?
Right. Well, it's taken me, what, I'm 40, I just turned 42. Yeah. Like back in October. Right. And now I'm just like, you know what? I just don't think I want to care about the things I used to care about in a good way. Right. And because it's taken a little bit of being a dad and having kids and looking through their world and saying like, oh man, the stuff that they're concerned about, like they come home so upset because somebody was just like, I'm not going to be your friend anymore.
Right.
Right. And it was just like, huh? Oh yeah, I guess that still matters when people say that because they mean it in that moment, and then tomorrow they're totally fine again. It's as fickle as the industry is in general. But
yeah.
Gosh,
maybe I should have a child and then I won't care as much. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, because they're super easy. They don't take up any time.
Right.
So definitely have like 6
They're basically for free. Yeah, you spend no money on them.
Yeah, like you raise them to help you. That's the point of having children. Yeah, so like that, they can be your gopher, get you your coffee. Did I tell you that there was one day when I think Jackson was, how old is he now? 6? He was about 3.5, maybe 4, and he made my coffee in the morning.
Wow.
I wake up to, our Google smart homes we use as walkie-talkies so we can broadcast across them. And so I'm in another room. I hear bloop, Daddy, I made you coffee. And I'm like, I bolt out of bed, run to the kitchen expecting to see like coffee and water and everything all over the floor. And I'm looking around. I'm like, it looks fine. It looks fine. And it's this perfectly brewed little cup of coffee.
Oh my God. Wait, now you're like really selling me on having kids so that I can just get a cup of coffee every morning.
And now, so the other day I was like, Jackson, you want to help me with dinner? He's like, no, but I'll still make you coffee.
Oh,
like,
love.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay. I don't know if I've ever asked you, I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Do you have a fun coming out story?
No, I have a terrible coming out story, but it's funny
Really?
in retrospect and I'm happy to tell it to you.
Okay.
I was in a secret relationship with a girl in my high school. She wrote me a love letter. I dropped the love letter during Music Man rehearsal where I was playing Marion the Librarian. My high school theater rival picked it up. She started telling the entire school. My girlfriend at the time confronts her the next day at rehearsal and is like, hey, Ariel, come here. And she decks Ariel across the face and then gets suspended. And
Your
then
girlfriend gets suspended.
my girlfriend at the time gets suspended.
Your secret girlfriend.
My secret girlfriend. And I'm so scared that Mr. Mankowski, who is the theater leader, I'm so scared he's going to call my parents that I ended up telling my parents that I was in a relationship. And then they didn't believe me. Because I was also dating men. I was dating men all the time as well. So my parents just didn't believe me. Yeah, it was a wild, wild story.
That's ridiculous.
That's my coming out story.
Well, did it, so they were, okay, I don't even know where to go with this because they were like, you're like, okay, mom, dad, I like women. And they're like, no, you don't.
Yeah,
Like,
they were like,
was it-
how is that possible? You had boyfriends all through high school. And I was like, yeah, but like you can do both. I don't know. It was the 90s. So
That
like,
didn't compute? Even in the 90s, that still didn't compute for them?
no, I don't.
And your
I
dad
don't think
being
so.
in musical theater?
I know my dad is basically, no offense to Steve because I love him, but he's basically a gay man / woman. So I was like, he of all people will understand the plight because he's like so theatrically inclined. And they just, I just don't think it was just a different generation, which is wild to say because it's the 90s. But I think
Right.
now, if I were to say that would be like, okay, you know what I mean? Because like I feel like every Gen Z person is queer in some way.
Closeted, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or
Because you
they're
couldn't talk
just-
about anything.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, that was my coming out story. It was not a good one, but it's a great story.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So she got suspended. And so I guess the rest of the class at that point was like, what the hell? Or
She
they
got
were like, oh yeah, we
suspended.
knew.
No, like no one really knew, but she got suspended, but then she decided to take the entire like year. She like got homeschooled. So then she was like out of the picture. So then I guess people knew about it, but no one, the good news is that I was not bullied. Like no one ever like came for me. which is great because it was also the 90s. Like you don't know. And everyone has a different high school experience, but it ended up being fine. And then I went to college, and everyone in college is gay. In fact, we had a term called gay by May. If you came to the college in September as a straight person, by May, you would be gay. And that was true for literally everyone in my class.
Fair. All right.
Yeah.
Well, sexuality is a spectrum. That's what they always say,
exactly.
right? The kids now like get offended if you try to put somebody in a box, right? And I've got listeners of that age, and so like I want to understand this. And again, being the ripe young age of 42 that I am, it's now coming around. Like I'm allowed to talk about it, but I didn't get to experience the same thing that they get to experience when they are that age now, right? So because especially in North Carolina where I grew up, that additionally was not cool, and I couldn't, being that I wasn't involved religiously at all in town, I couldn't even date people's daughters who went to church, and because I wasn't Baptist, and they were,
oh my
god, yeah, it was a time, it was an experience.
Wow. Yeah, I wish in a way that I wish we were raised in this generation, and I don't because of iPhones, but like in terms of like being queer and doing whatever you want and having open discourse about everything, I feel like Gen Z is so good at. And so yeah, I feel like my coming out story would be a lot different had it been in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it wouldn't have been cyberbullied. That's the worst. Like, because once it's out there, you can't take it back, you know?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I want to wrap up with 3 closing questions that I ask everybody on the podcast. The first question, just very simply, is what motivates you?
Making people laugh. That motivates me. Like seeing smiles on people's faces and cracking a joke and seeing someone cackle. That motivates me every day. Cackling.
That is a special kind of laugh.
We call it a genuine cackle. You know how you are like lol on the phone?
Yeah.
But like you don't know if someone's actually lolling. So a gen cack, when I say that to my friends, is a genuine cackle. That means I'm actually laughing while reading the text. That motivates me. A gen cack.
Which if you're Boston has a totally different meaning. A gen cack. What advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now, starting out down a similar path?
Be fearless. Be fearless. And never, ever take no for an answer. If somebody doesn't believe in you, screw them. Do it yourself. You know, just always keep plugging along and believe in yourself, because you'll make it happen. Even if no one else believes in you, you'll make it happen.
I love it. Okay. If you can only see one show for the rest of your life, but you can see it as many times as you want, what would you see?
Oh my God, you're going to laugh. Ghost the musical. Ghost the musical.
We saw that together.
I know we did see that together.
Oh my God.
People, they ream me for it all the time. It was my favorite musical. I saw it 4 times. Granted, I was on Pop Brownies every single time, but it was...
Yes, we were.
It was the greatest musical I've ever seen. It had everything. Ballads, great songs, magic, comedy, tears. It was amazing. I stand by that.
I have fond memories of that show, and I appreciate it. Yeah, and also, and then she fell as well, way out in Bushwick. Was that where?
And then she fell. Oh my God, yeah. Unfortunately, I was also on a Pop Brownie. I don't do Pop Brownies anymore. I feel like Then She Fell was the last time I was like, okay, my time is up. That's a wrap on me with Pop Brownies.
Yeah, that was a lot. Great. Where can we find you online? Connect with you. Connect with the show.
Oh, you can connect with the show at Titanique Musical on Instagram. You can buy tickets, titaniquemusical.com. You can find me on Instagram at Marla Mindelle. Please follow me. I don't know why. Please follow me. I'm pushing 40. I have 0 followers. Maybe it'll help me, I don't know, book a TV show in the future. So give a gal a follow.
And please go see the show. Oh my God, it's so funny. You can get more of me and amazing episodes like the one you just heard at thetheaterpodcast.com. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. Find me on there. Leave a rating and review wherever you're listening now. Thank you to Jukebox the Ghost for the intro and outro music. Thank you to Marla Mindelle for writing Titanique Musical. And thank you again to Marla Mindelle for having this wonderful conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.